Hi.
Hi. I'm Bill. That's Christina.
Hi.
And we are Sovereignty Led.
Hi.
Hi. Today we're going to update you on stuff that's been going on. We made a list.
As always.
And yeah, it's like things are happening fast, and we're kind of in the wake of the private intensive that we did here on the Homestead last week with Solomon, which was phenomenal. Oh my gosh, it was so cool.
Yeah.
And it was really a great opportunity for both Christina and I to showcase our skills in terms of helping someone where they're at. And Solomon was dealing with he had a motorcycle accident a couple years ago, so he's a lot of scar tissue, a lot of trauma, dealing with the medical model during lockdowns and COVID and all that kind of craziness, and living in a big city. And anyhow, so he was working through a lot. So it was really cool to be able to work with him on the table and then see the follow-on response, and Christina keeping an eye on and tabs on how things were going with him, and getting the specific remedies when he needed it to help support him through the follow-on, what was coming on from the body work. Right. And then the questions that would come up. And what was nice is the questions in the context of a session, it's like pressured. It's like, okay, tell me everything you've got going on. But having him eat breakfast and then seeing how he was feeling, and that was a big thing about getting into the rhythm and flow of his day.
And then his questions were more from a deeper, more authentic place. And I say authentic because he was able to get more to the crux of what was going on with him, rather than, like, you know, when we are under pressure and we feel contracted and tight, we can only access like this much, you know, whereas when you're feeling more relaxed, you can get deeper to the core. So yeah, it was really nice to watch that.
Amazing to see how it unfolded, and then the synchronicities and the timing, and how God's Spirit was flowing with things, and gave him the opportunity to get on some of the technologies, the PEMF mat, the multi-wave oscillator machine, and really keeping him in a parasympathetic state as much as possible, which is where the body heals.
Yes.
So that was pretty awesome. So we had
and he ate meals with us twice a day,
and there's
took naps.
Yeah,
lots of naps.
So it was really great for us to see that and really get into that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in the wake of that. Although it's great, it's also intense. You know, there's that space, the energetic holding of that space for him was important for both of us to be on point and making sure what he needed was taken care of, and so he basically got what he needed.
And I think that one thing too is, you know, we also honored when we needed to step back and take a nap or drop down, or, you know, go to the river or do things. And there was something else I was going to say around that.
But that's part of the process, though. It's not just like when healing takes place, it's not just in a bubble. It's not just one person. It's the interaction of everything.
Yes. And
that comes with, like, that entrainment, that the resonance that takes place in a field, energetic field.
Yeah.
It's important that if we weren't doing self-care and we weren't taking care of ourselves in the context of that, then he wouldn't be able to drop down as deeply as he did, because we weren't taking care of ourselves.
Right. So and we did a lot of prep work in the weeks before he got there too. So that's what I was going to say, is that the week and us able to push as much as we needed to was because of the foundation work that we've laid. So
right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. So one of the cool things that we'll talk about the bees and then the honey and the bringing the oxymels.
Yeah, that's good. The bees have been a really cool learning process. 5-6 weeks ago, bees weren't even on the radar, and all of a sudden it's like, here's bees, and now we have 2 hives, and we're actually going to get honey this year, which has never even occurred to us. And
yeah, like with starter hives, you don't get honey the first year. The honey they make has to go to feeding them, helping feed them over the winter, which I didn't know any of this, you know.
Yeah, it's been a big uptake of information, so the learning curve's been pretty steep. And I've had at least 5 mentors step up to help and support the process, to ask questions, be to borrow equipment and tools and things like that as I get what I need to do the job.
Or come over and inspect the hive and help him with issues. I mean, it's been amazing. Yeah. It's been amazing.
Suit for Evie. We met the bee club in the neighboring county, became a member of that, so they have bee suits for little kids that I could borrow for, my daughter, and so she got a chance to look inside the hive, which was pretty cool. And the frequency of the bees when they start humming is very relaxing. That's been super cool. So then there's that whole mindset shift, and this is where it's holistic in terms of what's going on here, is that, well, if we have access to our own source of honey, then we can begin converting what we're making and using, instead of it being sugar or
somebody else's honey.
Yeah, someone else's honey. Now we have our own. How can we utilize it in our space on the homestead and things like that? So looking at how it would change recipes, and you started making the oxymels.
Yeah, so, and to tie in, last fall, Bill collected pears from these 3 trees from an elderly gentleman's.
Well, say what an oxymel is first.
Okay, well, oxymel is approximately half vinegar, like apple cider type of vinegar, and half honey. And then you add, so you've got the beneficial properties of both of those ingredients, and then you
probiotics in the vinegar, and then there's probiotics in the honey,
and antibacterial, antimicrobial,
right.
And so then you add in medicinal herbs and like ginger and all kinds of things in there, and you can customize it to any number of things, like maybe it's anti-inflammatory, or it's for sore throats, or anti-anxiety, scar tissue dissolving.
So they're half vinegar, half honey mixed together, and then put in whatever you want to flavor or for medicinal properties, which she's been tinkering with.
Because we had all this vinegar from the pears from last fall.
So then it ties in with last year.
Like, what do we do with all this vinegar?
Right. So there was a gentleman in Burnsville last year, and he had 3 pear trees that were breaking the branches because they were so full of pears. He didn't care about it. He was in his mid to late 80s and just wanted the pears out of his yard so the yellow jackets wouldn't be harassing him so much. So I went over there and picked 60-70 gallons of pears, and then went and processed them and made them in the pear sauce. And we took the cast-offs, or the leftovers, the parts that you cut out, and made vinegar out of the pear pieces. So we had pear vinegar, gallons and gallons of pear vinegar. So it's like, well, what are you going to do with that much vinegar? And we've been using it for salad dressings and different things like that. But now the whole concept with the honey, the oxymels.
Yeah, which was like, oh, that's perfect, because I love making medicines. It's just makes me happy. So for Solomon, when he was here, I made an anti-inflammatory oxymel, and it's amazing. The taste,
and the scar tissue.
and yeah, because vinegar, apple cider, type vinegar, like pear vinegar would qualify as an apple cider type vinegar, like helps dissolve scar tissue too. So it's really nice to take the medicine making,
we're not making any
health
medical
sovereignty,
claims,
right, the health sovereignty, like the home herbal, like I have, like the old remedies, like to take that to the next level is just, it's really exciting for me.
Yeah, so it's cool. We could see what.
Speaking of,
but I think the component that's really important here that we like to share is that it isn't in this bubble. It's very woven together, and it's connecting dots that have been established last year and the year before, and that are presenting itself
decades
now,
ago,
that weave in. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing, is that there isn't a groundingness or a groundedness in like the past, and creating that stability and connection with the earth.
and the next steps that people take, you know, it's like all these huge big chunk steps, like I'm gonna go and do this retreat, I'm gonna go and do this thing, and it's like, but what are you doing to build this pathway,
to integrate it into your
so
life?
you don't have to take these huge leaps to the next step every time, and then what happens when there's a contraction after that big experience? You tumble back down because you didn't build the steps.
The retreat is always in a lovely place with catered meals and all of those types of things, which is not a bad thing. It's just that how that's applied to your life, and that's what big experience for me was during a lot of my trainings. It was hard to integrate all those changes into a life that I wanted to live. So if you have that experience in the environment that you would like to live in, then it's a different story. Like the healing taking place in a homestead, as opposed to it being in the lovely retreat center with, you know,
right, and bringing that into our experience with Solomon, you know, we could have pushed more, we could have done more, we could have given him more experiences, but we were also trying to be really cognizant about not pushing his neurology too much, because he was already like having this great experience of being able to drop down and do stuff that he doesn't normally do when he's in his own environment. So it was important for us to keep that in mind, that it was integratable for him as much as possible.
That's the piece, is when you can keep the neurology in a parasympathetic state as long as possible. Then the integration, it's a flow. There's no herky-jerky type of movement. It's not an agenda. I had ideas. I was actually talking to Christina just a little bit ago. We were in the garden, and it was like,
and we're still sweating.
It was like there was all these things that we didn't get to, that we thought we were going to get to with Solomon. And if we would have, it would have pushed the river, so to speak. It would have been too much. And the contraction would have been too much for him.
And, you know, you learn how to feel this stuff, you know, when you've worked with many, many people, you know, as long as we have. Because, you know, one of the reasons why we brought in the homeopathic treatment for any of our clients is because it helps the neurology be able to integrate. It helps the taffy stay more expanded, so that there's not so much contraction, and we can process more. We're calmer. Our bodies integrate more of the finding comfort, and, you know, pain is not, and suffering is just falls out of our loop. It falls out of our vision because we're integrating more because of the remedies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always a really important aspect to bring in. You know, that a lot of people have never experienced homeopathy before.
Yeah. Well, I think this ties in with the pharmacy and how that's been coming along.
Yes.
Because I think was it on our last video that we talked about?
Yeah, I think.
About one of them?
Yeah, we made a video about receiving the gift of a homeopathic pharmacy and the spiritual journey, and that's just continues. So just to briefly, if you haven't seen that video,
we could throw that below.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that below. received the gift of a homeopathic pharmacy that was gathered and cherished by a 30-year veteran homeopath. And so it's been, the process of integrating that and organizing it and just starting to use it. And it's been amazing. Like, honestly, like, I can't even talk about it yet still. It just feels like it's really anchored in an aspect of all my training over the past 19 years that it's like, okay, here we are, and it's coming out in a different way. Like, my observations are coming out more solid. Like, I feel like I'm accessing things that I couldn't access before.
Well, it's like a carpenter without the tools.
Right. Right.
Now you got all the tools. You inherited these tools from somebody who's been doing carpentry for 30 years, and it's like, oh, I could make all these other things.
Right.
That
It's like
I
there's
couldn't make before.
some energy of that memory in there, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like, God, I could talk about this. I may do a separate video on this because I don't want to get too off topic. We've got a lot of other stuff to cover, but it's been phenomenal. I'm just extremely grateful, and thank you. So
one of the things that we started over the past couple of weeks has been you working with my knee club clients.
Mm-hmm.
So some of you may know or may not know, like my day job is the knee pain guru, so I work with clients to help people get out of knee pain. I have an internet business doing that, and I create videos where I coach people out of getting out of pain, their knees as well as the rest of their body. And I see the value in homeopathy that is very supplemental to what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked Christina if she'd be interested doing a test run in July to see how that would go, and it's been going pretty good so far. I think
so.
We got some complex cases or complex clients with knee replacements and lots of injuries and surgeries and things like that. So having her there to be able to support the clients, because there's a very distinct line. Like, I'm real clear on what I'm able to help with. And then there gets to this point where it gets into this area where I know that what I have to offer, what I bring to the table, is not going to be able to help them. And then Christina is able to share her wisdom in that situation to point them to the right remedy and potency to help them through that. So that's been a good thing, and I think we're gonna continue that. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll let you.
Maybe I'll generously
Oh,
give
there
my
you
time.
go. Okay, cool. Well, good. We'll shake hands
Okay.
on it. That'll be good. So yeah, if you want, we'll have a link for that below too, for Knee Club. And what was the other link? The link to the
video for
old
the pharmacy,
video.
getting the pharmacy. Yeah, because I gave a little tour of the pharmacy in that video too.
Link. Okay.
Yes.
Just make sure, take notes, so we get that right.
Deliver what we said we would.
That's right. Well, that ties in with like integrity. You know, that
That's
goes
a good
into integrity, doing what you say and saying what you do, kind of lining that up, and how we've been.
And even saying, man, I know I said I could do this, but I'm just not going to be able to in a timely manner.
It's like taking responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like a caretaking.
Yeah.
It's a caretaking role that I see very lacking in society, or what those we've been interacting with or have been allowing their space around us. They either are unaware, or some's out of some's
God,
not
there's
lined
so
up.
much.
This is a deep subject, and I
It's
think
really deep.
it's a societal piece, and there's a lot of people that want change. They want things to be different. You know, we can go and criticize all sorts of stuff about society and government and medical this and that. However, there's this fundamental shift that needs to take place within yourself first. What do they say? Be the change you want to see in the world. That kind of...
Yeah, and that's the message that keeps coming through over and over and over again, is pulling back from all the stuff that's happening and make the change happen within you, because you are the lighthouse. You are the beacon, you know.
Well, I don't know about them. I know me.
I'm just saying, if you're watching this, you probably are too.
What
I feel like we attract those kind of people.
What I'm saying is, it's like, once we got clear of the things we didn't want, the interactions we didn't want, the experiences we didn't want, it got more and more clear of what we did want and how we wanted to move forward.
Yeah.
And it all started with communication and seeing how there were distinct patterns of, okay, we want to talk about A, and they would topic switch. I believe that's called gaslighting.
You know, whatever it's called, it's like, I think it's really important that we as a society really focus on that integrity piece. And integrity doesn't mean you're obligated to do something you said you do. What integrity means,
like let's say I'm going to show up at 2.
Right.
If I say I'm going to show up at 2, and my day changes, whatever it is, and I realize 2 is no longer possible.
Yep.
Or even today is no longer possible.
Right.
I'm accountable for what I said, and I'm going to communicate with her to say, you know what, I'm not going to be there till 2:45.
Right.
Does that still work for you? Or I'm not going to be there till tomorrow. Or can we do later on this week? Can we play it by ear? I could reach out to you Wednesday, Thursday, and now we can touch base then and see how it would work. But we're just... I wanted to say that this is part of us bringing in that new energy into all of our interactions, is stepping up into that kind of accountability to where we talk about where we're at. And so then, if you're not able to talk about where you're at, and you're still having trouble sharing, you're still having trouble coming out of your bubble, asking for help, feeling like you're criticized, whatever it is that stops you from being able to do that, that's where homeopathy can come in and work with those patterns. Shameless plug. In a very, very subtle but very profound way, so that that's no longer a blockage for you. And there's nothing that you have to do other than recognize where you're at, reach out, and take the remedies. It's really fucking simple. Well, what I found was interesting is all of those people that were in our sphere, whenever you would offer like a really great opportunity for them to work with you at a significantly discounted price, the moment they started and it was tapping into changing that pattern, these patterns that kept repeating, they disappeared. If they even made it that far to accepting it. You know, there's this, you know, when people feel like they're being seen or, you know, being criticized or being judged, which I really do my best as, you know, in that place not to say it as judgment. It comes as, you know, from 19 years, from learning homeopathy, you have to be in a place of the unbiased observer. Like, homeopathy is a phenomenological approach. We're simply categorizing what we observe and figuring out what's the best frequency to give this person to help them where they're at. And that's it. And you're kind of making you do have to make the judgment of what's health and what is something that needs to be treated. Because not everything's a symptom that needs to be treated, but it may still give you a clue as to remedies that are helpful and going to have a better action for that person. And I think that whole thing around the communication is us getting more in alignment with the people that communicate like us, and taking a step back and going, oh, those people right there, it isn't working. Yeah. And no matter what we say or how we say it, it's not going to be heard. And that's okay. And being okay with that. Yeah. And that's been a journey for me. That's been a journey. I'll admit it. Wrong or bad. It's just being like, okay, well, you go that way, over there, and we're gonna do our thing. And that's where we felt some pulling, some conflict energetically, which is, you know.
Yeah, gosh, let's talk about obligation. Yeah, that's I think I think it's pretty endemic of our society that we've had a lot of obligations, a lot of things pulling us in different directions. Like, oh, you've got to pay taxes. Oh, you've got to go to school. You've got to get a driver's license. You've got to get a college. You've got to get a 9-to-5 job. You got to have insurance. You got to get married.
You got to have kids.
You know, you got to have a working car. You got to, gotta. Okay, your family's showing up. You got to come for Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, holidays.
Easter.
All these different things. You've got to show up like this as a parent. You've got to, do this for your kids. Like, it is just endless little small obligations. Your phone just dinged. You've got to respond to the text that just came in. And when you start breaking that down and really bringing an awareness to it, like, we're really hooked in on so freaking many levels. And we don't have to make it, in the process of undoing those hooks, we don't have to make it we're putting our armor on and we're going to fight and say, hell no, I'm not going to get obligated to you. Like, go sit on attack.
Warm today.
It is warm today. It can be as easy as breathing, dropping down, taking a second, a minute, a day, a week to get back, and then not going and deciding that you're getting clarity and homeopathic treatment.
It's kind of vague as hell, but I think it's looking at the interactions you have with people in situations and going, do I really need to do this? Do I really need to engage with that person? Because I leave that interaction, that situation, worse. I don't feel good about myself. I don't feel good about the conversation. I dread it before and I regret it afterwards.
Right.
And I think there's that place where as we increase awareness in our lives, there's that place where it's like, no, I don't need to do it. I don't need to engage that person. I don't need to respond. I said what I meant, and if they don't hear me, then let it go. And I move on to it. Allowing that to happen and not be attached to it allows for those situations that are more in alignment for you to flow, to be right in front of you.
Yeah. Which
is kind of what we're looking at right now. That's been happening more and more.
Yeah. And as we've gotten quiet, if you've seen some of our previous videos, back in April I had 3 mini strokes, and so the last few months now being, we're almost at the end of July, has just been that process of like recalibrating and getting really quiet, and in that, things have gotten more clear what feels really good, what is energetically aligned for us, and what's not.
Yeah, I think when you have a serious illness, sickness, situation, accident, injury, surgery, trauma, something like that, then what ends up happening is the things that aren't important have to drop away. You just can't keep up with the, saying, okay, fine, come on over, or come on, have dinner with us, or we'll meet you for coffee, or we'll just hang out and talk, or things like that. Like, those things just aren't an option anymore. You're just trying to function on a daily basis. And that's what those mini strokes that she had was, kind of a knock on the door of what are we focusing on that do not need to be focused on anymore.
Yeah.
So with that being said, there was a lot of people in situations we needed to look at and go, do we really need to do that? Or do we really need to do that now? Can we put that on the back burner? Mm-hmm. What are the essential things that we need to address today And I think that's what's happening with vibration acceleration and all this solar stuff and Schumann resonance and like all these things, the pressure that's coming from a societal level, government level, all of that kind of stuff, the awakening and revealing of what's really been going on behind the scenes is causing an unrest in people. Like it's pulling a Band-Aid off to address all these patterns of trauma, ancestral, familial, community, religious, on all of these different levels that haven't been looked at, or they've been ignored and heads have been turned the other way. And now it's to a place where you can't do it anymore. And it's hitting all of us in different ways. Hit her with the mini strokes. I took the spill last year and jacked my leg up pretty good. So there was things we just needed to focus differently.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why it's so important to be doing our inner work, you know, and really working on these, releasing the trauma from ourselves, you know, and doing the deep levels of self-care, because it's just no longer an option to not take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just no longer an option. It's gonna keep getting more intense, you know, and however that ends up looking on a societal level, you know, it doesn't have to be scary. Intensity just is intensity, right?
Yeah, pressure creates diamonds. So
right.
There's that piece, and so I think we talked that one out. What do you think?
I'm ready to go on to
We
another
got
subject.
okay. We talk about willfully oblivious, trauma response, slowing down. Oh yeah, and that part of that is slowing down.
Yeah.
What do you need? What needs to be done? And getting quiet, and that's what we were setting up with Solomon.
Yeah.
That quietness.
And I will have to say that even though I spent a lot of time trying to get slower in what I needed, that even the strokes were like, you know, you really got to get even slower, you know, and really just dig in. So just when you think you're going slow, take a step back and go a little bit slower and see what happens. And Bill brings this, we see this pattern with his clients in Knee Club and people doing the pain pattern interrupts all the time. It's like, just go a little bit slower. And you're gonna, a whole world opens up to you that was passing by, and that little eyelash width of a nerve fiber that you missed.
Yeah, it's a neurology thing. It's like different brain states, different neurological states. And it happens when you slow down. You don't realize how tired you are until you slow down. And then all of a sudden you're sleeping a lot more. And then you don't know how you got all that stuff done when you were doing crazy amounts of stuff. So, yeah. Let's see. Phenomenological response to observing patterns and categorization.
I mean, I talked about that a little bit. Yeah, I don't want to talk anymore about that.
Okay. Slowing down, trauma response, willfully oblivious. What else we got?
I think these guys here.
Yeah, we had a dog. We lost 5 rabbits a week ago this past Saturday. Dog was in the backyard, and it was a crazy night. There was all sorts of stuff moving around energetically, and dreams, and rabbits screaming because dog was getting in a cage and killing rabbits, and oh god, man, it was nuts. So the next morning there were 5 rabbit carcasses strewn around the backyard. So that was a little nuts. Yeah,
they got our neighbors' rabbits too.
Well, we
found out.
Our neighbors got some rabbits from us, and the dog was in their yard. Anyways, so it was a crazy night, and then, but it ties in with, that was right before Solomon got there. Mm-hmm. So there was a significance in the number of rabbits and the time that happened, and dog and all of that really flowed into what was moving for him that week. And this is where, unless we slow down, we miss all of these cues. We think of it as just, oh, that's not a big deal. Like the fox when Lloyd was there in the field.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was going to get water at Mandala Springs. There was a fox in the field. Normally you never see foxes during the day. We drove, got water, filled up, drove back. So it's at least 20 minutes, 30 minutes between when we were driving there and driving back. And the fox was just about in the same place in the field, which is unheard of.
Right.
So there's a significance. There's a message being communicated by God as to what's going on. Things to look at.
Yes.
So using those things that are out of the ordinary, out of baseline, and this is the component of slowing down, and where we see a lot of people in the community they have so much, they're splashing around in the water metaphorically so much that they don't have that stillness in the surface of the water to determine what is actually significant and what isn't.
Yeah. You know, with the rabbits being killed by the dog.
We'll say murdered. Can we say murdered?
Murdered by the dog. I wanted to bring in an example. A few months back, we had a rabbit just was dead in the cage, and we.
In the cage? Or the one that fell out?
The one that fell out. Yeah, had a heart attack, and so I had been having.
Not me. I didn't. It was with another rabbit.
Two rabbits.
Just so we're clear.
Not the
Stories. There's narratives going around. We want to be very clear about that.
Anyway, this happened during a time where I was having some health challenges and like some emotional stuff going on, like really like deep grief, a wave of deep grief come up. And when Bill processed the rabbit and did, we would look at examining the organs to see why the rabbit just fell out of its cage when he opened the door, and we have suddenly a dead rabbit that was alive a few minutes ago. He found the heart had ruptured.
Yeah.
And so, I was like, this was so out of baseline because, that's never happened. We've kept rabbits for 2 years. Our rabbits are really healthy. We've never had a rabbit just randomly die like that before. And I had this overwhelming sense that the rabbit's heart had ruptured. It was like a reflection of what was going on with me in the grief. And that could have, I don't know if that could have been me, or if it was like taking the pressure off of me, or how that works, but it was just, the parallel was really uncanny.
Well, you could look at things, and here's where there's faith involved, that it could be considered a coincidence, or just the timing of it, or you didn't disregard it. But then you look at the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. You start paying attention, you start slowing down, and you see all of these things connect together. It's not insignificant events.
Mm-mm.
And I think we've been programmed, or we've been taught growing up, or however you want to refer to it as, that we're always in this mode to hurry up and ignore and keep up with the Joneses and all of those kinds of things. Right. And we miss these things. We don't see the significance of the events that are happening in our daily life. And I think that's where Christina and I have slowed down, and we pay attention to these things, and we look into them a little deeper. And before we move forward, we're kind of taking that as information as to how to adjust and pivot and move forward, what we need to focus on that day. And I think that's what made the work with Solomon's so valuable is he merged in with all of that information that's happening on a daily basis. And we were able to use the baseline that we have that's really calm on a daily basis, and then see how his interaction in there was changing that baseline. Not in a bad way or a good way, but using it as information to understand how to help him.
Yeah. I mean, he slowed us down even further twice a day at meals with prayers and gratitude, you know, before each meal. And it was beautiful, you know, it was just really nice.
And the naps he took, it was like, okay, we gotta take care of him. And then he was dropping right after breakfast, and then he crashed down in the lab and rested, which is what he really, really needed.
Yeah.
He needed a space where he didn't have to hold the weight of the world and all the stuff that he shows up as a man in the world doing. And it was like he was really able to drop down, which was pretty awesome.
And to be out of, I mean, to have the level of pain relief and just the shift that he had during the week he was here was pretty significant.
Yeah,
too.
That was real neat. So that was a dog killing the rabbits, but you could see like things happen here, and we just kind of take it in. Like
we don't spend a ton of time on it, but you know, we do look at it and take it into consideration. So
yeah, like the hummingbirds that we haven't seen so much, and now they're showing up a whole bunch while we're doing the video. So there you go. You know, significant things like that. Or the one day, I think it was Friday, that I hadn't seen that many dragonflies or yellow
butterflies,
swallowtail butterflies. And all of a sudden it was like Friday, they were here. So that's a blip on the radar. It's something different than baseline. So, and it's nature that is providing that information, that communication as to what is shifting and changing and adjusting. So
yeah,
let's see.
I think we're good.
You want to talk about mimosa chocolate?
No,
you don't care about,
we're gonna do that.
You don't
next
care about
time.
You don't care about mimosa chocolate anymore?
So
no, we're not going to talk about it now. We'll talk about chickens and electric fence. Christy, do you want to talk about mimosa chocolate? Go get good.
I'm tired. I'm doing self-care here and I'm done.
Yeah, I'll keep talking. I'm good.
Okay.
So we got, we were working on, we have bears. That's the biggest animal to keep out. And we have chickens and we have...
When he says we have bears, there's bears in the area. We don't keep
We
bears.
don't keep bears. It's kind of like the rabbit conversation, mating the rabbits.
Right.
It wasn't me.
Let's just be clear.
Yeah, just be clear. So there's bears in the area, and they can break in and eat chickens and eat bees. So it's been research over the past, I guess, month and a half.
Yeah.
Around what type of setup we need for the bees, what type of setup we need for the chickens, because we'd like to have an outdoor setup where they can be in the yard. Right now we have some deep mulch bedding things going on.
But our last batch of chicks have gotten so big that, you know, we've got to figure out what to do with them now.
So
and we've been wanting to put them into a third coop that has a run. So that's where this conversation is going to.
Yeah, so we're putting them in a run, and we needed to get electric fencing that would support both the chickens and the bees. So we finally got that clear, because there's a whole host of things that when you're figuring all this stuff out that isn't obvious off the bat. And so we got the fencing. We're going to be putting that in here later today. And so that's been a process. We're gonna have we'll have 3 coops then. One coop we're gonna dedicate solely to golden comet chickens, so egg production, and then we're gonna have another coop that's more for meat birds, which is going to be the Barred Rock.
Also called Plymouth Rock.
Really?
Yeah.
Plymouth Rock, huh?
Isn't that weird?
I'm just going to call them pilgrims.
Okay.
Or pilgrim chickens. And then we're going to have all the other chickens in this other big area.
Our barnyard mix.
We're going to have a barnyard mix, yeah. So we're going to call them foghorn leghorns.
No, we actually have a couple of those. The what are those called?
No, we don't.
Yeah,
The white ones?
the white ones, the leghorns. The roosters with that's a
Those
foghorn
aren't-
leghorn.
Those aren't,
But
those
those
are
are
Italian. Those are Italian chickens.
Leghorns?
The thing, because it's got a flap on the side.
Oh, you just think
The
because they're
leghorns.
stylish with the little
It's a beret.
coif.
It's a beret. It's a beret.
That's French.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't even know it's Italian from his
Whatever.
French.
Anyways, so we're going to get that set up. We're going to reorganize some things that work better. Oh, the tunnel. The tomatoes and the cucumbers and the passion flower are, I made those arches. Do we have any video? Do we have stuff of those anywhere?
Well, we did a video sitting underneath them, but we haven't actually made a video showing the yard, which would be a really good thing for us to do
If you're lucky, Christina will put one in the video or
in
something.
a few days.
In a few days. We'll put pictures. Yeah, so we have a wall of, or it's going to be like this tunnel of tomatoes and cucumbers and these purple passion flowers, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that's been good. Stuff's growing really good. And mimosa. I think that's it.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk, you still don't want to talk about mimosa chocolate?
No,
I guess you'll talk about that in another video.
I will. Definitely.
When she shows you the
Definitely.
pharmacy. You're going to show them the pharmacy. And then you're going to talk about mimosa chocolate.
I've got all kinds of fun things to show you guys.
And then
Can't do it all at once, though.
So you're going to leave them hanging? Is that what you're...
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Keep them wanting more, right?
I guess.
All right, you guys.
Okay.
Take care.
See you later. And if you have any questions, comment below or shoot us an email. And head on over to the website, sovereignlab.com. Join our newsletter list.
Mm-hmm.
Have we sent out any newsletters lately?
No.
But we'll send it out. You'll get it eventually. And what else? Yeah, subscribe to the channel and all that other kind of happy stuff people do when they live in the computer world a lot.
All right, you guys. Take care.
Okay,
We'll see
bye.
you soon.